I have been loving Aetherdrift Draft, and Izzet is one of the sweetest archetypes to play, but it can be hard to get all the pieces together in a Premier Draft. So I'm very happy to inform you that not only can you reliably force Izzet in Quick Draft, you can also win a shitload doing it. I've done 4 Quick Drafts from Plat 4 into Diamond 1, going a collective 23-6 or 79% win rate, and collecting 3 out of 4 trophies. I even managed to somehow settle in the top 5 of the 17 lands leaderboard by win rate, so that's cool. If you also enjoy attacking your opponents with sharks of various sizes, then subscribe and share this with 10 elderly relatives or be land screwed for the next 13 years. So why did I decide on Izzet? In Quick Draft, bots are assigned pick orders and they seem to be heavily influenced by the actual draft data from Premier Drafts. So I expected that green would be very hard to force because not only is it popular, it also wins the most. White and red have the worst win rates, so I wanted to pair one of those with either blue or black. Sure, you could probably get Boros all day, but it's one of the worst archetypes and I don't think it's worth it. It wouldn't surprise me if Orzhov or Rakdos are also good choices, but Izzet just kind of worked for me out of the gate and I wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. Here are my 3 trophy decks, just so you know the kind of thing I was playing. During these drafts, I was fully forcing Izzet, but you'll see my only negative record was actually when I picked the Frog God Pack 3 Pick 1 and just never managed to cast it with my non-existent fixing. I'm doing my part to tank that card's win rate. Don't worry, Watsy. So how should you be playing and drafting if you want to try this? Well, when I had a look at what good players were doing with this archetype, it's very clearly an aggro tempo style of deck. Cheap aggressive creatures and interactive spells that you can use to snowball the game quickly in your favor is plan A. Plan B is finish them off with flyers. Plan C is push the limit, I guess. How fast are we actually trying to go? Well, cards like Aether Siphon, Trip Up, as well as Crash and Burn are quite bad in the deck. They're just a little bit too slow and expensive versus other things that you could be doing. This archetype also feels unusually strong on the play because you can just suffocate your opponent's options. Going over the important cards, first the creatures. Scrounging Skyray is the king of this deck. It's cheap, evasive, and can grow to disgusting sizes. In a normal draft, being past this card is a sign that the archetype is open, but in Quick Draft you can get it a lot later than normal. You can literally never have enough of this card. Marauding Macau is the worst Skyray, but despite that, it's still one of the best cards that you can play. Interestingly, it seems to be picked higher than Skyray by the bots, but you're also unlikely to wheel one of them. If your opponents don't take care of this little shark straight away, it will threaten to completely take over the game. In this example, I was completely dead without my baby shark here, getting to absurd sizes and slowly chipping away at my opponent's board until they died. Oh my god, Howler's heavy. So this card is decent in most blue decks, but in Izzet, well, what if Murder drew you a card, gave your creature indestructible, and put multiple +1/+1 counters on your creatures? Not only that, it's also very likely to go late in bot draft. In one of my decks, I had 4 of this guy, and it was honestly great. Just set up a juicy bait attack into their engine rat, and know that they are muttering in frustration on the other end of the screen when you get them. Grease Wrench Goblin is really strong even without the discard synergy, because card filtering will always be relevant, but with the ability to create some strong openers, it pushes the card even higher. Dynamite Diver and Endrider Catalyzer are 2 commons that are kind of meh to bad normally, but the data on them is very good in this archetype. Endrider actually surprised me quite a lot with how often you can get in with it. I doubt you're that interested in playing it without a Start Your Engines payoff, but if you have one, often you end up forcing your opponent into a race scenario and it can connect more often than you might expect. I drafted some number of Nimblethopterist in all of my decks, and it's not flashy, but it does get the job done. Being able to trade on the ground or crew a relevant vehicle whilst also chipping away in the air is amazing, and if you care about Start Your Engines, then this will get you the rest of the way there. Transit Mage is an actual bomb. Being able to search for Spike Show Harrier, Hull Drifter, or something like Boommobile is great. You should probably only run it if you have at least 2 targets though, but despite that, you really want this card. Diversion Unit fits the plan of the deck very well. It's cheap, evasive, and aggressively statted. I very rarely use the ability, but I could see it causing issues for my opponent sometimes, for example when they want to cast Spin Out on my more scary targets. The Gunner, or Gums as my friend Paul likes to call it. Look, it doesn't have any teeth. What the hell's going on there? This card is amazing in any red deck, but what if you also just got a bunch of free synergy with this ability as well? Now, I know he's not cheap, aggressive, or evasive, but it doesn't matter. Gums is the truth, and you will respect them. Going into the spells, Bounce Off is so good in this deck. It felt like discounted time walk an unreasonable amount of the time. Did they just play a huge threat that you can never kill, just bounce it, swing in for like 5 damage? Then if they replay it, you can start suiciding in for the final points, or even better, just cast another bounce off and win the game instantly. Stock Up just looks like a divination variant, but the joke from another local player I know, Ross, is that it's actually demonic tutor that cantrips. Being able to get just what you need in any situation is amazing, and this card is all over standard constructed recently for a good reason. Spectral Interference is good in blue decks that want to hold up instant speed tricks, and Izzet is one of those decks. It's also a lot better on the play where you're able to apply pressure and threaten a mix of annoying answers. It combos with bounce off extremely well if there is a permanent that you really need to deal with long term, and honestly people still play quite badly into Spectral Interference, forgetting that it even exists. Kickoff Celebrations has great synergy in this deck. I would mostly cut it if you don't have a Start the Engines payoff, but if you do, it can enable some very explosive turns late on in the game. And then looking at the multicolor uncommons, Broadside Barrage is just amazing removal that gives you some extra synergy for free. It's a real reason to be in this deck. I think the most gross things I got to do with this deck were enabled by Sloop. Having repeatable, reliable looting is just crazy when you have all the payoffs to match it. Also being able to crew for one makes it very flexible on defense and offense. Thank you for all the love on the Quick Draft series. I've made a playlist with all of my guides in it, so when they come back around again on Arena, it should be available as an easy to use resource. Don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far, and I'll see you next time.